Hello and welcome back to the channel with your latest update from British politics this time. The Labour government and the BBC are under scrutiny as there are allegations of collusion between the two organisations as we know that the biased BBC, or as I call them, the British Bashing Corporation, are continuing their attacks on ordinary people in the United Kingdom while they're taking their tax money to fund their luxury corporation. We're going to give you guys the latest update on this because it goes back to Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, and her recent budget announcements. Of course, all the taxations, high taxes and high regulations, all the policies that were announced. The BBC News and the BBC as a whole have been defending the Labour government instead of actually holding them to account. But now we have found out that it goes beyond that because there have been Labour Party individuals actually colluding with the BBC, and they have decided, they were forced to make adjustments, let's just say, and edit their existing articles. This goes back to everything else that's happened. Before we start, we have to obviously talk about John Prescott, the former Deputy Prime Minister of the new Labour government under Tony Blair. John Prescott has passed away. Rest in peace, of course, and my thoughts are with his family. Politically, obviously, John Prescott and I had differences, but I have had a number of very good conversations with him in the past in Westminster. He was a good man. And again, politically aside, he had a good sense of humour, and there's a lot of memories a lot of people have in the Westminster Village when it comes to John Prescott, especially the egg gate with the punch. Let's talk about the actual story in our hands now. First things first, obviously a few days ago we had the farmers protest in Westminster. It goes back to the rebellion against the government's budget when it came to the inheritance tax and everything else. One of the main issues was that the government said that don't worry guys, it's only going to affect a couple of few farmers, and they're very, very rich farmers, and everybody else is going to be fine. So the BBC decided to do fact-checking. The BBC has this fact-checking unit, BBC Verify, and their job is to tell the truth, technically, right? But they don't actually hold the establishment to account. They don't hold the power to account. They target individuals in the country, especially conservative-minded British patriots. So they came out to defend the government. So the BBC is already the communications arm of the government, the propaganda machine. Not only that, they lied. They lied to everybody. They came out and said, yes, the government is actually correct. The numbers match up. Everything's fine. All those who are criticizing the budget and what's going to happen to the farmers, to the pensioners and everybody else, they are lying. This is the article done by BBC Verify. How many farmers will be affected by the tax rises, right? The budget. And then they've been talking about all this nonsense, saying ministers insist that reforms will only affect about 500 estates a year. But the Countryland and Business Association claimed 70,000 farms face being snowed by the new regime with devastating consequences for the families. But the BBC came and said, well, yes, they're telling the truth, they're the government. But we then discovered that BBC Verify actually used the Labour activist to back government's claims on a farm inheritance tax. And this was confirmed by The Telegraph. Dan Needle, who previously actually went after Nadhim Zahawi over his tax affairs, was mentioned by the BBC as an independent expert. Really? So you're hiding his identity, you're not transparent about his political leanings and what party he belongs to, and then now you're saying, also, first things first, even the 500 is per year, right? And the numbers are wrong anyway. The BBC is saying the government did everything right. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, went out there and told the whole world that the BBC backs my plans. It was in that moment when everybody started to do some digging. Because when the Prime Minister accidentally said, yeah, the BBC have done their homework, the BBC are so good, the BBC are supporting me, people said, well, that's weird. The Prime Minister shouldn't say that. Let's do our homework. And then a lot of people discovered, So all this fact checking and the confirmation of the BBC that the budget is perfect was because a Labour member was actually colluding with the BBC. And how long do we have to go? How many times do we have to go through this for people in this country to say enough is enough? Nothing is happening against the BBC. And a lot of people are cancelling their TV license, but that doesn't really change anything, does it? There has to be an actual proactive campaign to bring it down. You have to stop taking British tax money in order to fund a propaganda machine that is the arm of the government. It's not the job of the BBC to be a parrot on behalf of the British government. The BBC belongs to the British state, not the British government. Now, all that is not really anything new anyway, and the backlash continues against both the Labour government and the BBC. The actual BBC Verify article said that Dan Needle, an independent tax expert, which is not, says that the number of actual farms affected is likely to be below 500 per year. Below 500 per year. And obviously, as we said, the CLBA produced a much higher figure, which again, Dan dismissed on X, saying this is hyperbolic fake stats. On behalf of the BBC or on behalf of the Labour government? Which hat was he wearing when he was attacking actual statistics? Saying that this is just fake. Anything I don't like is just fake. That's literally the whole system at this point. Now the BBC Verify, the fact-checking unit for the BBC, which again is completely nonsensical, because not only, as we've exposed them on 2CTV many times over the last couple of years, don't do their job properly, but the person in charge, one of the main people in charge, Mariana Spring, she's been exposed as a liar. Her own CV was a lie when she got the job. There's something about the left-wing side where they just love to lie about their CV and their background. Rachel Reeves as Chancellor, she lies about everything. And now Mariana Spring, we've already done an expose, but as a reminder, BBC's disinformation correspondent has been accused of misleading would-be employers by lying on her CV. Mariana Spring, who joined BBC's Verify team about 18 months ago, allegedly lied about a past work experience on a job application in 2018. The New European reported that Mariana Spring applied for a role with US media company Coda Story and claimed that to have worked with BBC foreign correspondent Sarah Rainsford at the summer's FIFA World Cup in Russia. Coda Story's editor-in-chief, Natalia Antelava, fact-checked the claim and found that it was a fabrication. Now, obviously, the journalists only met with, Mariana Spring, only met with Rainsford on a handful of social occasions, and she was basically saying, yeah, I went to the World Cup, I went to Russia, I've been working with BBC foreign correspondence team, and I know everybody, it's perfect, just like how Rachel Reeves was an economist at the Bank of Scotland, the Bank of England, and everything else. And when they get exposed, they just continue as normal. Whereas ordinary people, even if they make a mistake, for example, they might have posted a controversial joke 15 years ago on MySpace, they get into trouble, they lose their job, their whole social status will get destroyed, they will be cancelled on societal level. But these guys, they get promoted. Rachel Reeves got promoted to Chancellor. Mariana Spring, she's not even 30. And she's heading this so-called disinformation unit. What credentials? I mean, the whole thing is, again, I mean, we always say that when it comes to the British society, failed individuals in the world of business, or those who know they will fail in the world of business and normal jobs, they become politicians. They are failed individuals. And the failed politicians will then get promoted into civil service, the European Union, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, all the other international entities. Failed individuals inside the system get promotions. Ordinary people get demoted, get fired, and get cancelled for the tiniest mistakes. And sometimes just fake and false accusations. Now, let's get there. Some reaction on this story. First super chat from Luke. Thank you, Luke, saying the BBC News and coverage is evidently biased to the left. They have been caught spreading misinformation and peddling straight up lies as damage control for Starmer, often and loudly. They have no shame. 100% true. Mike says the BBC is the enemy within. They have been for a very long time. Tamsin says psychopaths charm people even when people know they are telling lies. Anyway, let's have a look at the... James Black says the BBC is one of the largest government propaganda outlets in all of Europe. Yeah, on an international level. Let's not forget, when it comes to the BBC, it's not really just about the UK's BBC News. So the BBC World Service, which used to be respected by many people around the world, and people in Britain were proud that, oh, we have a symbol of Britannia around the world that is respected. People watch it to get their news about their regional affairs. That was also infiltrated a couple of decades ago. It's completely nonsensical and biased. But the biggest problem with the BBC is all those mini divisions. So you got BBC Arabia, we got BBC Persian, we got BBC this, BBC that, and they are all working against the interest of both, for example, the British people and, in this case, the Iranian people. BBC Persian is the arm propaganda machine of the IRGC. And we have exposed that so many times on 2CTV. Feel free to go on the channel, search for it, BBC Persian, exposés about Iran. And nobody says anything. That is disgusting. David says, I've just joined 2CTV Plus. Welcome to the 2C tribe, David. And for those who want to be good boys and girls and follow David's footsteps, don't forget you can actually take advantage of our Black Friday discount for the next few days. 50% off. Yes, it's time to join 2CTV Plus using the promo code FRIDAY. You can get half price for annual memberships, new annual memberships on 2CTV Plus. Go to 2ctvplus.tv. The link is also in the description. We have also released a new show yesterday, The Marxist Takeover of Arts. Feel free to check that out. Of course, that's our independent platform away from YouTube, different to YouTube memberships. And we're also working on the new app, which is still coming soon. It'll be very soon, though. The 2CTV app will come out very soon to make it easier for you guys to get access to 2CTV Plus, also connect things to your TV and everything else. And we are also creating a new video player to make it even more smooth and easier for everybody. And the best thing about it is you can get access to our chat forum as well if you want to talk to me and other like-minded people. All right, let's go back to you guys. Kevin said they have been working for Blairism for the past 14 years too, and anti-Brexit. So this is the one thing that Blair did, which was kind of genius. Evil, but genius. The Blair Project started in 1995, officially, when he became a Labour leader. In 1997, he became Prime Minister. But technically it started a few years before, early 90s. He realized what was happening, the change in the country, especially after Margaret Thatcher. He realized if the left want to take control of the establishment and get into government, they can't just say we are left-wing, please vote for us, because Britain is not left-wing. So they decided, okay, we're going to sell the Labour Party as a new Labour Party. We're not left-wing anymore. We're just liberal globalists. And then the other part of the Blair Project was to send his people, like-minded people, to take control of every institution. A lot of them became teachers. A lot of them became heads of the cultural institutions, museums, the BBC, every sort of institution that you can think of, from cultural, academia, media, everything else. And they got basically close to the actual central power, which meant that even when the time came and Blair had to leave, Blairism continued. So we've had the same government since 1997 because of that. You might think that the UK has had different governments. They haven't. We've had the same government since 1997. We've just had the change of management every now and then because we have managerial politics now. We don't really see any change in governance. It's the same system, same style of policies. You just change the face, change the prime minister, change the party leader, or change the party colour. But it's been the same government since 97 because the whole system is controlled by Blairism. civil servants, and all the others as well, the NHS, the BBC, every institution. They were smart. They worked hard to take over, and they did. Now it's time for a backlash. But is it happening? Not sure. Another super chat from Chris saying, never hear Keir, get back to number 10, clown. Let's see what we have. PH says, mandatory license fee to fund these woke activists is a disgrace. At least the brainwashing in North Korea is free. You know, it's a joke, but it's actually very true. You don't have to pay to be brainwashed in North Korea, but in this country you do have to pay to be brainwashed. It's a very fascinating comment, and that's very true as well. Right. Chris Smith says the BBC digging themselves a bigger hole. Didn't think that was possible. Oh, it is. But the more they do this, then of course, the easier it will get eventually for the downfall of the BBC. And if you want reform, if you want change, certain things have to happen, certain collapses has to happen under a Labour government. That includes the NHS and the BBC. Because if for example, a right-wing government or the Tories decide to even try to reform the BBC or the NHS, there will be a massive outrage. But when it happens under the Labour government, they have no other option but to do it, right? The problem is, do you actually have faith that the Labour government under Keir Starmer would actually do nice and good reforms for the BBC and the NHS? Maybe someone else can, but I don't trust Keir Starmer. At one point, I thought maybe Keir Starmer could be a boring Prime Minister, but maybe he could just be a good manager. I thought, well, I didn't really expect him to be a complete left-wing tyrant. The guy looks boring. He's turned into Kim Jong-un. It's weird. I thought he was just going to be a very boring version of Tony Blair. But nope, I was wrong. So I'm not really sure if we're going to have any sort of reform. Even if the NHS collapses, they're just going to give him more money anyway. Peter Wilson, thank you for your super chat, saying, hi Tusi, do you remember someone calling your name at the march followed by Precious? That was me. Thank you, Peter Wilson. Thanks for the support. Anyway, we will keep you guys posted because obviously there's now a massive backlash against this story and the exposures that the BBC have been including with their Labour members. We will keep you guys posted on everything that happened. Don't forget, as I said, that you have a few days left to take advantage of our 50% Black Friday discount for 2CTV Plus using the promo code Friday by going on 2ctvplus.tv. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.